Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on Clemson at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining me. We got a jam-packed show for you guys tonight. Going to talk a little recruiting. Got another top 5 coming up for you guys. Going to talk some preseason hype for the Clemson Tigers and what it may mean. And of course, the Notre Dame scheduling contract that we just signed with them. So all of that and more coming up in tonight's episode. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. We're on the road to 6,000 subscribers, and your help with that will be greatly appreciated. Hit that like button. Share the video with all of your college football friends and family, anybody that likes to consume college football content. Share the channel, share the video with them. And then last but certainly not least, we got the Super Chat feature available for you guys. If you'd like to support what me and Jordan do here on the All In Show, go ahead and hit that Super Chat feature, and we'll be sure to read and respond to the comment and or question attached to that Super Chat. We also got YouTube memberships now, so if you want to become a channel member, we had one person join last Wednesday, that is. If you want to become a channel member, that would be greatly appreciated as well. And with all of that said, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Good, man. Kind of been stressed out during the week, doing some last-minute Mother's Day shopping. You know, that's coming up. But yeah, other than that, we're still reeling from that tough weekend on the Diamond. I don't even really want to get into it, man. But
yeah, I mean, I guess we could talk about it a little bit. It's been a rough go, man. Past couple weeks, what are we? 1-6 in our last 7 games right now. Nothing really going right for the Tigers, especially offensively. Our batting average with runners in scoring position is abysmal. We barely got any players hitting above 300 right now on the roster. It's just been it seems that the baseball team, at least offensively, has hit a lull here at this point in the season. Not a good time for it. Hopefully they can play themselves out of it. But it is clear that the offense is in a bad way right now. Honestly, all you can do if you're a Clemson baseball fan at this point is just hope that some of these guys start turning it around when they're up at the plate. Other than that, there's not a whole lot coaching-wise that can be done to fix what's happening right now. So,
yeah, I mean, and you look at it. I mean, last night against Coastal, notwithstanding, I mean, over the weekend you had so many opportunities to win that series against Florida State. Obviously, losing the Friday night game was the way you did. That was brutal. I mean, if you just simple things like simple base running errors that cost you 2 runs in that game. And then, of course, as great as Lucas Malstead has been, he was due for a blown save one of these days. And
absolutely.
You just think if you had gotten those couple of runs that should have been easy runs that any baseball team at any level would be able to make if you just don't make those base running errors. Like, we're having a different conversation, and yeah, you get blown out in game 3, but we would be talking how you took 2 of 3 on the road. Like the whole tenor of that series changes, and that's been the frustrating thing watching this team the last couple of weeks is just the guys they're not making the timely plays. It's on either side. You're not getting the timely hits except from like the top of your lineup on occasion. And obviously with Jaron Purify being out, that hurts. Your infield is reeling. You're down to your 3rd or 4th second baseman now. It's been a disaster. And so like guys just got to start hitting. That's I think first and foremost, this offense needs to wake up because I think you're getting enough from the pitching, despite some of the hiccups that you've seen. You're getting enough from your starting pitching and bullpen that you shouldn't be 2-7 in your last 9. or 1-6 in your last 7. Like that just shouldn't be the case.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. Look, the pitching hasn't been perfect, but to your point, it's been good enough to win these games. And too many times they're stranding runners in scoring position. Too many times they're not getting that timely hit when it's needed most in the game, and they're wasting a lot of opportunities. And it's just kind of snowballed these last couple series. And it didn't get any better last night against Coastal. Just really outplayed, out executed. You didn't look like you wanted it nearly as much as Coastal did. And that's kind of an unfortunate thing to say. But honestly, all you can do is you hope you start getting a little bit healthier than you are right now. You mentioned Purify being out. You hope you start getting a little bit healthier, and you hope some of these guys can just kind of hit their way out of this slump that it seems that the entire lineup has hit top to bottom. I mean, maybe Cam and a couple others not being withstanding, coming through with a couple hits here and there, but as a whole, just not getting it done. But
nope. Just you're not hitting for power. You're not hitting for average. There's not a single player in the lineup hitting 300 now.
Yeah, I mean, somebody posted on I think it was Twitter, kind of the stats from last season, and then right under those were this season's stats as far as batting average, hitting with runners in scoring position, on base percentage, so on and so forth, right? And every stat not even close. Home runs, I think last year was like somewhere at like 115 ish, and this year we're at like 50. So you mentioned the not hitting for power. Definitely don't have the same pop in the lineup that you had a year ago. Some of that was expected with who you lost, but I don't know if anybody predicted it would be quite this far off of the pace that last season was as far as the offense.
I mean, and the guys you brought in from the portal, I mean, these were guys that were expected to have some pop in the line. Luke Gaffney has been wildly underwhelming. And Colin Priest, he's had his moments, but it's been here or there. Josh Pano hasn't given you much offensively.
Right.
You have not gotten what you had hoped you would out of these transfers for the most part. Dominic Listy obviously was a great addition, great leadoff guy.
Yeah.
Even though they moved him out of the leadoff spot recently. But beyond that, your core of guys, your best hitters have been, in whatever order, Cam, Purify, Listy, and I guess you could say I mean, those are really the three. I mean,
that's basically it.
Yeah, I mean, you've gotten some good runs of good hitting by Jacob Jarrell and like I mentioned, and Colin Priest. But then like beyond that, like nobody scares you in that lineup. I mean, if Andrew Chufo wasn't such a great glove, he probably wouldn't be in the lineup. And I'm a huge Andrew Chufo guy. He's a phenomenal shortstop, but it's like he's not giving you much at the plate. And just some of these other guys, you're just not seeing a whole lot, and you're having to make a lot of changes in the lineup. You saw Tristan McClatty get the start. You've seen Jay Dillard get starts recently. Like there's just so much moving around, and it doesn't seem like these guys really have a whole lot of confidence when they're at the plate right now. So
yeah, no, they're definitely not seeing it well, and it's just really underwhelming. And I don't know. Here's the hoping that it gets a little bit better on the diamond for the Tigers. They really got to put it together this last little bit, or they're going to put themselves in a really bad situation come postseason time. So you hope that they kind of get the ship righted in a hurry because you're getting to the point where you're really having some really costly losses down the stretch. And I know that North Carolina State was the first series loss all year, but I mean, you're picking a bad time to rattle off a bunch of losses because, you're going to start dropping pretty quickly. And they already have in the polls. So, you end up putting yourself in a really tough position come postseason time. But, on a little bit more positive note, the women's, softball team start the ACC tournament this week. They'll be playing tomorrow. We'll see who they play based off the games tonight in the ACC tournament. But they are the second seed. A bunch of freshmen contributing on that team. Unlike the baseball team, they got on fire towards the end of the season, and we've talked about it on here and kind of outside of the show as well. Is just like this team is kind of the opposite of last year. Last year, we found ways to lose. This year, we just seemingly find ways to win as far as the softball team goes. So I'm excited about the potential of their postseason run. Wouldn't mind seeing them cap this season off with an ACC championship tournament win, and then see what we can do in the postseason. But definitely has been the season ended on a very hot streak for the softball team. We'll see with the kind of layoff that they've had, because they didn't play the last weekend of the season. They were off. They had already played all their games. So they were off the last weekend of the season, and, another gap leading up into the ACC championship game. So I don't know. Maybe there's some rust there. We'll see how it goes. But hopefully they are still red hot like they ended the season. And if they are, they're going to cause some problems in the postseason for a lot of those teams.
100%. Yeah, shout out to Rittman and those girls. They're doing a phenomenal job. Maybe they can teach the baseball team how to hit with the runners in scoring position.
Yeah,
make some runs, lay down a bunt. Simple stuff.
Yeah, they get it done. They get it done when they need to the most. I've seen them come back numerous times this season with some clutch hitting. So, but we'll leave the diamond sports there, and we'll hop into the show for tonight. Quick shout out to the comment section before we dive into tonight's show. Jackson Johnson, one of our moderators, one of the pillars of the Voice of College Football, plugging all the things that we need him to plug, not just on this channel, but all the Voice of College Football channels and on Twitter and everything. So thanks for being here, Jackson Johnson. Tiggs in the house, John Sarian, both of our two more of our great moderators on this channel as well. Sierra in here, Eric Watkins, excuse me, my bad. I didn't mean to butcher your name there. Is in here as well. Let's see what else we got. David Wood is in here. Thanks for being here. Jay's in here. Tiger Tom is in here. So thanks, everybody. We've got 22 people in the live chat right now. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hit that like button while you're in here. If you guys missed it at the top, we do have the super chat feature available. So if you would like to support what we do here on the show, go ahead and hit that. And then also we have channel memberships. If you want to become a channel member, that would be greatly appreciated as well. But with that said, Jordan, we got a lot to get into tonight. So let's go ahead and dive into the show.
Let's do it.
All right, everybody, we're going to kick off tonight's show with a recruiting update. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world of recruiting. Obviously, it's about to be official visit weekend. Clemson's got their big official visit weekend coming up soon. It's going to be a huge weekend in, solidifying this 2026 class. Everybody knows how successful this class has been to this point. But Clemson's still got a lot of work to do. There's still a lot of time between now and that early December signing period. So still a lot of work to do, still a couple position groups to solidify. I do know that Toothman is confirmed for coming to the official visit weekend. There are going to be 5 uncommitted offensive tackles at at the official visit weekend for Clemson. So that's going to be a huge thing. Obviously, him, Aboku, Scruggs, who else? Delaney and Smith all going to be on site for that official visit weekend. So that is going to be huge for Matt Luke, solidifying that offensive tackle room for the 2026 recruiting class. Still got some, maybe another receiver out there that Clemson's hunting for. But Jordan, give us an update on just what's going on in Clemson recruiting right now. Where are things trending? And how big is this official visit weekend going to be that's coming up here shortly?
Yeah, I'm going to get to you mentioned the offensive tackles. I'm going to get to them in a second. There's one in particular in that group that is really trending strongly in favor of the Tigers right now. But first things first, a couple of new names have come to light in the defensive end search. We've been talking about kind of why the defensive end recruiting has seemed to be, playing out really slow. I mean, you have a couple of guys that have gone elsewhere. You still have one big name that you still are in the hunt for, and Dre Quinn. But a couple of names have come to light that Chris Rumpf has been pursuing. I'm going to start with the offer that came out on Monday. J.R. Hardrick out of South. Cut out. All right. Did I cut out there for a second?
Yeah, you cut out there for a second, but you're back.
Okay, I'll start again. It's
all right.
It seems like every time I do these recruiting updates, that's when my internet decides to have a hiccup. I don't know what it is, but I'll start over again. Monday, an offer came out to J.R. Hardrick out of South Pittsburgh, Tennessee. 6'6", 225 pounds, a guy that I think is going to certainly have to put on some size at the next level. Plays at a small school. I believe it's a 2A school in Tennessee. You watch his tape and you see the traits are there. He plays really high. He's kind of. I think he's a guy that's definitely going to be more of a project when he gets in. He's going to have, like I said, he's going to have to put on some weight. But you see the athleticism. The guy can move. He played a lot of stand-up linebacker. He can play edge, which is certainly where Clemson likes him because of his length. He's very tall. He's a guy that Clemson has decided to throw their hat in the ring for. And you're seeing a couple in like the past month or so. You've seen multiple Power 5 schools start to offer. I think Louisville is set to host him on an official visit weekend here coming up soon. He's gotten offers from Cincinnati and Vanderbilt. The recruiting profile is starting to get some more attention. But he's a guy that Clemson seems to really like for his potential. So that's a guy to keep an eye out on. And then the other one is a guy that actually doesn't have a Clemson offer yet, but recently dropped Clemson into his top 5 and 4-star Zach Groves. Now, Zach is somebody that Clemson is actually very familiar with. He had been visiting Clemson as early as 2023. There were some things that Clemson wanted him to work on in order to be able to get an offer. And now it seems like that courtship is starting to pick itself back up. Yeah. And, I think that, it says a lot that, despite not having an offer, he puts Clemson into his top 5. Right? I think that is pretty significant. So, Zach Groves is a guy that I'm keeping an eye on. Clemson is going to want to try to get him. I feel pretty confident is going to try to want to get him in for that May 31st official visit weekend. But, again, that is still kind of, that those things are still being put in the works. I know he has official visits scheduled to a few other programs, but none on that weekend. So we will see how that plays out. So that's kind of my defensive end recruiting update. Keep an eye out on those guys. I think Clemson will try to zero in on those two. As the Dre Quinn decision approaches as well. So we'll see how that goes. And then another thing, Polo Anderson, he made a announcement in safety from a 4-star safety from Dorman High School. He made his announcement. He's going to announce his decision on May 16th, as planned, next Friday, his birthday. We've talked about him ad nauseum. I think when we've been talking about recruiting, he's a guy that Clemson absolutely has holds the cards for right now. I would say. As we approach his decision date, things I still feel the same. And this was a recruitment that I just said Clemson just has to cross the finish line. That's really what you got to do. And I think they are in position to do that. So that would be a massive win. You picking Clemson over the other in-state school in Columbia. I think that would be a nice recruiting win, and where a recruitment where Clemson needs to win. I mean, Dorman has been a Clemson pipeline for ages, and so with the run that South Carolina has had in the last couple of years at recruiting in state, I think Clemson is trying to kind of reassert some dominance there. Not necessarily dominance. I never am going to be the one to see Clemson just go on a run of snatching up all the top kids in state. That's just not how they recruit. They're a national brand, national program. They can go and recruit basically anywhere, and that's what they choose to do more often than not. But you got to get the ones that in state that are obvious no-brainers.
Absolutely.
Polo Anderson is a no-brainer. So I think you're in a great position there, and I think you just got to cross the finish line, like I said, and I think you're in position to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark said Shane Beamer does not like your recruiting updates. He doesn't.
No, I doubt he does, but he's going to have to deal with it. Maybe he can go kick another Gatorade cooler. I don't know. Break his foot. He'll have to live with it regardless. So shout out to Shane Beamer.
Oh, man.
And one other thing, you did mention the offensive tackles.
Right.
That are confirmed for the official visit weekend. The one that I think Clemson is in the best position for is Carter Scruggs. We've mentioned him quite a bit. As we've talked about the offensive line recruiting, Clemson is still wanting to add that last tackle. This offensive line class is rounded out into good form, and I think Carter Scruggs is the one that I think Clemson is in the best shape for. 4-star, has top schools like Georgia, Penn State. Like this would be a really, really massive recruiting win. So that's my recruiting update. And if you guys have any other recruiting questions, any other names that you want me to talk about, you can feel free to leave them in the chat. I'll probably hit on some of them, when we get to the end of the show. So, that's my recruiting update.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's trending in a good direction for our Tigers. Let's hope the momentum continues, and really excited about this official visit coming up here shortly, and the recruits that will inevitably come with that as well. But for some more college football updates, guys, you need to go check out the Voice of College Football official website. Yes, that's right. The Voice of College Football has an official website, a singular place that you guys can go to get all things Voice of College Football, whether that be the Clemson channel, the Michigan channel, the Ohio State channel, the USC channel, whatever channel you are looking for, whatever story you're looking for. We got articles up there. We got show schedules up there. Everything that you could think of, Voice of College Football, it's all up there in one singular place. So you guys go check it out, create an account over there, and get the traffic going over there as much as possible. It's going to be a great place. It's going to continue to grow and evolve and get better and better. So go check it out. Let us know what you guys think about the new website.
Yeah, absolutely. Y'all go check it out. I already made an account over there. Like it is your one-stop shop for everything Voice of College Football. Your show updates. There's a message board forum. articles, as you mentioned. It's got the whole deal. So y'all go check it out, make an account, and build that community over there.
Absolutely. Go build it up over there. I'm going to put the link here right there in the chat to make it easy for you guys to go check it out. Okay, so just click that link. That'll take you right over to the Voice of College Football website. You can make an account over there. You can get involved with the message boards. You can read the articles. You can keep up to date on all the live schedules and stuff going on with the Voice of College Football. So go check it out, guys. And I appreciate your guys' help with that. I know everybody has heard the news. Everybody across the media, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram, on the various college football forums, the big media in college football have been talking about the Notre Dame Clemson 12-year home and home series that was just announced by both universities. Both athletic directors released statements about it. Both universities released graphics kind of debuting this partnership, if you will, between Notre Dame and Clemson for 12 consecutive home and home ball games to be played starting in 2027. So it'll start the 27 season, and it will go through 2038. So, Jordan, were you surprised when you heard the news of this, 12-year kind of partnership between Notre Dame and Clemson? Obviously, this kind of helps Clemson in a couple different ways, right? It's a huge brand to play every single year. That's important. It also helps Clemson with their strength of schedule. Notre Dame tends to be one of the better programs every single season in the country, and that's going to bolster Clemson's strength of schedule every single year by playing them, right? It also helps Clemson as we enter this new ACC agreement where there is unequal revenue sharing based off of TV ratings. Obviously, playing a brand like Notre Dame every single season is going to bolster Clemson's already high TV ratings when it comes to comparing with the programs of the ACC. So that's a couple ways that it helps Clemson out. Now, some of the things that have been brought up, playing Notre Dame 12 consecutive years in a row. What does that mean for the future of the agreement with Georgia to play 4 more contests with Georgia within that same time frame as well? We also have Oklahoma on the future schedule as well that will be within that time frame as well. So give us kind of your thoughts on you hearing the news, what it means for the Tigers, and then we'll get into some of the other stuff with the Georgia series and the Oklahoma series that'll be coming up as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's big for Clemson, for a number of reasons. You asked, was this a surprise? I mean, I had heard rumblings of this. I wasn't sure if it was actually going to come together, but the announcement was, okay, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. I think for both parties involved, and from a Clemson standpoint, like as you mentioned, you get a basically guaranteed schedule boost every year. It is a great. It's just a great matchup, first and foremost. I mean, Clemson and Notre Dame have had some really tight and competitive contests over the years. They've met each other in college football playoffs, ACC championships, big regular season matchups, everything in between. It's kind of sort of developed into a pseudo rivalry. Obviously they're not traditional, rivals, and, they haven't, they don't have all this history, with each other, but especially within the last decade, I think you've seen the competitive respect from each of the programs, and I think they've had a really close working relationship over the last decade or so. With Notre Dame being a partial member of the ACC and all of that as well, the relationships institutionally between both schools has grown tremendously, and they've kind of formed sort of a partnership. It's kind of like when it's kind of what happened when Florida State, joined the ACC, and especially over the years as both programs, rose to prominence. That rivalry developed. That wasn't a traditional rivalry, and it became one. I could totally see with this scheduling agreement, we could be talking about this, 15 years from now, and we'd be like, yeah, we consider Notre Dame a rival. So that's I think that's really cool. Yeah, I think it's a big statement for where Clemson is, just with respect to college football in general. I mean, this is not something that would ever happen 15 years ago.
Right.
You would not see Notre Dame having a scheduling agreement with Clemson.
No.
So obviously the brand has grown tremendously since Dabo Swinney has been the head coach. And so all of that, you put all of that together, and I think the biggest thing financially for Clemson is it's a guaranteed big home game every other year,
mm-hmm.
and it's the ACC distribution model is you basically kind of cornered the market a little bit because as you remember, Notre Dame they're required to schedule 5 ACC teams every single year. As a part of their agreement to be partial members of the ACC and all the other sports, they have to play 5 ACC teams in football to maintain their independence.
Right.
And so, you've kind of cornered one of those spots because that game is going to count as one of those ACC 5 ACC games every single year. And so you're getting those extra games that, that would have gone to a Syracuse or Georgia Tech. Obviously the other big programs in the conference, the Florida States, the Miamis. And so that in and of itself is a massive deal. So I think there's not too many negatives when you think about it from Clemson's perspective. And so I'm really excited for it. I enjoy when Clemson plays Notre Dame. I think they feel the same way. And it makes a lot of sense, I think, for Clemson, and it does a lot for their strength of schedule and their just the ability to continue to put their brand on big national stages is important. So really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's one of those things where it's I think mutually beneficial for both programs, both universities. It makes a lot of sense, right? It's 2 of your major brands in college football, and it's a guaranteed huge game for both teams every single season, and a home game every other year, which you pointed out. But from Notre Dame's perspective, this is important to kind of nail down Clemson because they're always looking as being an independent school to bolster their strength of schedule as well. So instead of, maybe playing a Wake Forest or a Syracuse or, whoever in the ACC, they've locked in Clemson for the next, 12 seasons starting in 2027, right? So that's a huge thing. And it's a great move for Clemson because of the unequal revenue share that you mentioned. Make no mistake about it. Clemson has to focus on ways to generate revenue, and entering this deal is going to bolster the amount of TV revenue that they receive from the ACC. So it makes a lot of sense in that fact. And then obviously from Notre Dame's perspective, USC is the athletic director and their athletic program have been, mentioning the schedule in the Big Ten and all that kind of stuff, and maybe possibly not playing Notre Dame every single season, which has become, the rivalry between USC and Notre Dame is well documented. But that may be, not happening in the future, right? You may have, we talk about, our Georgia matchup, our Oklahoma matchup. Well, let's think about this. What if the SEC goes to non-conference games? Is Georgia still going to want Clemson on the schedule? Probably not. Is Oklahoma still going to want Clemson on the schedule? Probably not. I mean, maybe. But again, you could see those teams move away from some of those big out-of-conference games because of adding an extra conference game that they have to play, right? And then they still have, teams like Georgia still have their out-of-conference rival in Georgia Tech that they're probably going to want to keep playing as well. Same thing with South Carolina and Clemson. So I think that's that's maybe another motivating factor for Clemson to kind of lock these in as well. But I'm happy. There's been some classic games over the years in recent memory with Notre Dame. I mean, you think about we're 5-3 against Notre Dame right now. You can go all the way back to the Frank Howard days where those games were played, right? But talking more recently, 2015 and on, obviously you think back to that 2015 game where it was the remnants of the hurricane and a complete torrential downpour in Death Valley, and Notre Dame scores that touchdown. They're going for 2 to tie it up. Ben Boulware makes that huge play. The BYOG speech from Dabo, just all sorts of imagery and, different things come to your mind when you think of that game. And that kind of catapulted Clemson into their first college football playoff appearance and ultimately started changing the national narrative around our program, right? And really, catapulting us into, some of the elite programs of college football. And obviously we rattled off 6 straight seasons of absolute amazing football to kind of, continue on with that, and then obviously the 2018 team, they got smacked by that Trevor Lawrence team in the Cotton Bowl, 30-3 was that the score? 30-3. Justin Ross, shout out to him. He had an amazing game. I think he had well over 100 yards receiving, if I remember correctly. And obviously Trevor Lawrence did his thing as well, not to mention that defensive line that was there that season. And ultimately Clemson goes on and wins the national championship that season. And then obviously the COVID year where Notre Dame became officially a part of the ACC and got to play as a conference member and play for the ACC championship. Their one and only time in a conference. They played for a conference championship. Luckily, Clemson averted disaster, I guess you could say, for the ACC by winning that game. Obviously, we lost the regular season matchup, but we got our revenge in the ACC championship game, ultimately going on to the playoffs and getting beat by LSU that year. But, I mean, that's just a few examples of just like the Notre Dame games that, stand out. And it's been a really great series so far. We've played 6 times since 2015, and I'm looking forward to the next 12 because they're always amazing games. They're always physical, and they always make for great TV. Way too much stress, but in the hindsight of them, they're a lot of fun to think about, and it's going to be, I think, great for both parties.
Yeah, 100%. And both of these programs vying for major, college football, relevance, national championship. All of that, I think it makes a lot of sense for both programs, and it's a good way for both of them to make money. I mean, that's what it is. I saw Els King say it's a big money grab, and you're right. I mean,
yeah.
No, there's no doubting that. But that's the game now. With TV networks dominating the landscape of the sport.
Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do. If you want to win national championships, if you want to be that level of program, you got to play the game. And this is
playing the
game.
You got to generate any and all extra revenue that you possibly can. And a partnership with a brand like Notre Dame, love them or hate them, it's going to give you a leg up when it comes to that ACC TV revenue and the unequal distribution that's going to happen going forward. So I can't blame Clemson at all Mark chimes in and says Clemson spared the ACC a ton of embarrassment by winning that game. We absolutely did. And I think the ACC should be a little bit more grateful to Clemson for saving their honor, what little bit of honor that the ACC may have left, which is at this point none. But at that point, we were saving the little bit of honor that the ACC had left. You imagine if Notre Dame would have had the rest of history to brag about winning a conference for the one season that they were in a conference.
Dude.
It would have been, I mean, no one would have ever been able to tell a Notre Dame fan anything from that point forward.
Yep.
But,
join a conference. We did.
We won, and we're done with that now. So we have one conference championship.
And Clemson has done that twice now. A first-time member making the ACC championship, Clemson being the only team stopping them from creating embarrassment. With SMU, obviously this past season, like
SMU, yep, a group of 5 teams that came in
conference needs to be
your conference championship and would have won it if not for the leg of one Nolan Huger, who had an amazing, game-winning field goal to walk it off in the ACC championship game. So, like I said, the ACC should show a little bit more gratitude to our Tigers.
100%. I saw John ask. He said, I thought 7 of the 12 games won't count as conference games. So every single one of them counts. I'm assuming you're talking about Notre Dame. For every single one of them counts. It's just that some of them are already on the books because naturally the rotation was going to be come to Clemson in some of those years. I think it's 6 that
5.
I think there's 6 that were already on the books, or
it was 5 of them. 5 were previously scheduled. They added 7 more to make it 12 and to make it 12 consecutive seasons. So
that's 7 years where another ACC team would have otherwise had Notre Dame on the schedule that won't. Yeah. So
all 12 are going to count for Notre Dame as one of those 5 ACC games that they have to play. But the 7 number was the ones that they added that weren't already scheduled. 5 of which were already on the books. So that's where that 5 and 7 came from. But I'm excited for it, man. I know a lot of people hate Notre Dame. I know a lot of people, it's kind of like Notre Dame's very polarizing, right? Like you either love them or you hate them. There's not very many people that are neutral on them. I'm kind of neutral on Notre Dame.
Same.
I don't hate them. I don't love them. It does irritate me that what the ACC allows Notre Dame to do, but I can't really be mad at Notre Dame for it because it's the ACC commissioner and the ACC office that are allowing these things to happen. So if my team was Notre Dame, or if the roles were reversed and Clemson was the independent, right, I would expect them to take full advantage of whatever conference would allow them to do that as well. So it's not really Notre Dame's fault. It's the ACC's fault, which is why they're a dying conference. And their future is their days are numbered. I believe that. So at least when it comes to them being a power football conference, who knows what the landscape looks like later on. Maybe college football makes a break from all other sports. You've heard people talk about that kind of stuff, but hey, we won't get into all that here.
Yeah, we could do a whole show on that.
Yeah, we absolutely could. We absolutely could. All right, we'll be right back after a message from Mark Rogers.
You can make a difference here at the Voice of College Football. Use the Amazon link. Financially contribute to the Voice of College Football without spending a penny. Same shopping experience. It's easy. Go to any video on any channel. Go to the description section and grab the link right next to the capital letters that say Amazon. Use that link, and Amazon will instantaneously convert to your account, settings, history, everything intact, just like whatever link you use right now. No difference. Pay no attention to the product that you see right there. Just go search what you want. Don't forget the Amazon link. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, the voice of college football.
All right, guys, you heard Mark there. Go check out the Amazon link and support the voice of college football on all the channels in that way. Before we get into the next segment, we got 42 people in the live chat. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hit that like button while you're in here. Really helps us out on these live videos. Consider subscribing. Me and Jordan do the All-In Show every week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. We're right here to chop it up about Clemson football, college football. So consider sticking around with us and subscribing to the channel and share the video with all of those people out there that you know that like to consume college football content. Jordan, a lot of college football media have been talking about our Clemson Tigers this offseason. And a lot of it has been in a very positive light, which sometimes makes me a little uncomfortable on how high some of the national media is about our Clemson Tigers. Far be it from me to be superstitious, but some of the love that Clemson is getting, I just wish some of the national types would pump the brakes. We've heard from the likes of Joe Klatt. We've heard from Josh Pate. We've heard from many others.
And Andy Staples, Ari Wasserman, Brandon Marcello. They're all putting
Greg
out their
McElroy,
top 25s.
Yeah, Greg McElroy,
Yep.
All the top 25 lists that have Clemson securely inside of that top 5. I mean, the list goes on and on of the people singing Clemson's praises. Okay, so with that said, we got to talk about all this preseason hype, and is it warranted, and does it make you nervous at all that all these people are this high on the Clemson Tigers, calling them legitimate national championship contenders? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel the same way as you. It makes you uncomfortable for a lot of reasons. I mean, when Paul Feinbaum of all people is telling is on his show saying, I think Clemson is in the national championship race this year, that you start to get like, okay, this is uncharted territory. It's not really uncharted territory, but at least in the recent past, it's uncharted territory. Yeah. I think in a lot of ways, I think 2021 through 2023 kind of broke the fan base. I think we're having to get used to expectations again. But still, it's like I think even during the playoff runs where you were always like, every season you were like, yeah, I feel great about my team, but it's like, man, what if the wheels fall off? I mean, that's always kind of something that comes up in the back of your mind. And now with a team that's returning 81% of its production and from last season and leading the country, and has all of this hype and all of these first round picks. Have you seen the mock drafts? I mean, I've seen as many as like 5, 6, 7.
I saw one with like 7 on there. I was like, dude, what are we doing?
First round picks.
You got some with 4, you got some with 5, you got some with 6. Like, all right, now calm down. Let's start telling these guys they suck a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Can we get some Clemson hater out there to just start posting a video every day about how they're going to fall on their face in the 2025 season?
Shout out to my guy Dustin Black on Twitter. He posted a top 10 and he left Clemson completely off.
Hey,
and I was like, man, thank you so much. This is what the timeline needed, man. And I mean, he's a Clemson fan too, so it was like it was perfect. I was like, great. This is exactly we need some. We need a timeline cleanse. We need some. We need to humble ourselves a little bit. And so
we need a little bit of expectation management, right?
Yeah.
Although we just had 3 seasons. I guess the seasons that broke the Clemson fan base. In your words, that was our coming back down to earth, our expectation management seasons. But now you go from the national media basically as a whole kind of criticizing the way that Dabo goes about the transfer portal and how he runs his program and and he's stuck in the past, and college football's passed him by, and Clemson's best years with Dabo Swinney are behind them, and so on and so forth. And then and that was as early as heading into last season. And then Clemson does what they do last season, which they weren't perfect, right? But they improved in a lot of ways, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. And then you go into this offseason and, everybody's feeling good about the offense. You got the number one, you're the number one team with as far as returning production. You got a quote unquote Heisman caliber quarterback, at least preseason, and you got a new shiny defensive coordinator that's going to, completely turn it around. And suddenly all the national media goes from the games past Dabo by to Clemson as a national championship contender. And it's a little bit of whiplash, and it's a little weird. It makes me nervous, much like you, when all the national types are saying the same thing about your team. I don't know about every other college football fan base out there, but when it's my team, it makes me nervous. I prefer having some doubters out there that are trying to poke holes in your team rather than, this is Clemson's year. They're a national championship contender. There's no reason they shouldn't be in it.
Although, absolutely. I came into this offseason, you and I both, it's well documented how we feel about the potential of this team.
Yes.
But, my idea going into the offseason was like, okay, we're going to be the only ones that know it. Like that was my hope. It was like, maybe there'll be some guys that are like, oh, look at, Clemson's returning some really good talent. And, maybe they take another step and take, like, I would have been fine with all that. But now there are like a large swath of notable college football talking heads that are saying Clemson is my pick to win the national championship. Clemson is my pick to make the final to make the Final Four or
right. I don't know if people out there watch Josh Pate, but he already made his prediction with the draft.
That was funny.
With the draft analogy and how draft picks equate to national championships and blah 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 blah. Obviously he was somewhat joking in that fact as well. But anyways, it does make me nervous that everybody is kind of jumped headfirst into this Clemson bandwagon, if you will, heading into the 2025 season. And as a I don't know, scarred Clemson fan because of how some things have gone, it makes you think like, are they trying to set us up right now? Like, is this?
It's one big psyop, man. That's what it's.
They're just like, is this some psyop they're running on the college football fan bases, and they're just propping Clemson up just in the hopes that we don't get it done this season, so they can just mid-season just start piling on the Tigers and Dabo Swinney. I don't think so. Look, the potential's there for Clemson to obviously make a run in 2025 to the national championship if things work out, right? There's a lot of ifs in between now and then. If players don't get hurt, if the bounce of the ball goes a certain way, right? Health plays a big role in that, and a whole slew of other things. But I do think this team has the potential. I do think the preseason hype is real. My only drawback is it makes me nervous that everyone's saying it. I, much like you, thought that we would go through this offseason where, some people, there may be one or two out there that'd be like, well, I don't know. I mean, I think maybe they figured a thing or two out at wide receiver, right? The Cade Klubnik, he was really good last year. He's probably gonna have another really good season. But instead they're just like, Clemson's back. National title or bust. You might as well book it. Hey, all Clemson fans, go over to whatever booking agency and throw your money on the Tigers. They're winning the national championship in 2025. That kind of stuff makes me nervous. So I do believe in the hype. I do think that Clemson is going to have a very good team in 2025. Does that mean we make it to the national championship? No, not necessarily. A lot of things have to go in your favor for that to happen. you can be a really good team, and things don't go your way, and you find yourself not in that discussion anymore. So, note to all the national media: if you ever listen to me or Jordan, stop talking about Clemson. Just cut it out.
Please stop.
Platt, Josh Pate, Greg McElroy,
Todd McShay,
McShay,
4 Clemson players in the top 10 or whatever it was, or 3 or 4.
All you people, all of you, stop talking about Clemson. Stop talking about them.
I think it's really it has. I think it started with the draft Twitter, because like heading into the spring, you didn't like there was some like, okay, Clemson has some guys returning. Like I'm keeping an eye on them, but I think the difference has been when mock draft Twitter, like after the draft, this past NFL draft ended, and you had all the draft Twitter start putting out their 2 early mock drafts, and they were looking at the rosters, and they were like, okay. And they're seeing all these players that they could see go first round. Oh, okay. There's TJ Parker. There's Peter Woods. There's Cade Klubnik. Oh, Blake Miller. Antonio Williams. And then you start thinking about, I think when they started putting those out, I think some of the other talking heads and college people were like, okay, Clemson is actually kind of loaded this year. Wasn't expecting that. Let me slap them in my top 5. I've seen Clemson as high as number 3. I saw somebody have them at number 2. I don't know if they were a notable person, but I know Brandon Marcello had Clemson at 3.
I've seen them as high as 3 behind Texas and Ohio State.
Yeah.
So,
all right. And then you look at the national championship odds, and you couple that with how low Clemson is on the national championship odds, and now I think everybody is jumping on that. Okay, so not only does this team have a ton of draft picks, they're low. They're relatively low on the odds market for a team of that talent profile. Coming back, I'm jumping on them. And so now I think everybody's kind of hopping on the Clemson wave a little bit, and it's a little unusual because that just wasn't the case, just a few months ago. When Clemson was winning big, like that was expected. There were going to be a lot of people picking Clemson to win a title every year, but now when you considering the slide and all the heat that the program has taken because of that slide. All of a sudden, this just sharp, shift in the conversation. You're like, okay, is this going to work out in our favor, or is this
right?
Are we being set up?
Yeah. You're hoping that the team is staying far away from the what Nick Saban would call rat poison that is permeating college football media right now, with everybody singing Clemson's praises and telling all our big name players how great they are. Telling Cade Klubnik he's a Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, this is Pro Football Focus's fault too. I forgot to mention them. They've been putting out some propaganda.
Yeah. they didn't have to post all those high grades. From Peter Woods and Cade Klubnik and TJ Parker and all this. Not they didn't have to post all that. Yeah. They could have just not posted it. So I'm talking to you too, Pro Football Focus. All of you, stop talking about Clemson for the rest of the offseason. Don't talk about Clemson.
Yeah.
All right, guys, if you have not already, make sure you're catching Clemson live on all your favorite audio streaming platforms. That's Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcast. And whenever you consume your podcast, make sure you're searching Clemson Live. All of our long-form videos are on there in podcast form. All the things posted to the channel, all of our content is on those apps for you to listen in podcast form. Give us a rate, review, subscribe over there. We're trying to grow those platforms as well. That would be greatly appreciated. So whether you're working out, on a long drive, wherever and whenever you like to listen to your podcast, make sure you're searching Clemson Live and giving us a follow and a listen over there as well. All right, Jordan, rounding out the show tonight, we're going to talk a little top 5. I think this is next to the last position group we have left. I think all we have left after this is offensive line that we have not done a top 5 of this season. So we're going to talk none other than tight ends. We're gonna try our best to make a non-controversial top 5 list of tight ends for Clemson all time. I'm sure everyone will agree with our list, Jordan, because everyone agrees with all of our top 5 lists that we make. Some of them turn into top 10 lists, but regardless, top 5, right? So we're going to try to tackle tight ends tonight. You guys in the comment section, I see we got 45 people in here right now. Get your names in. You can put them in a particular order if you want, or you can just throw some names out there of people you think should be in the top 5 conversation when we're talking tight ends and Clemson. So name the names that come to mind. Me and Jordan do not prepare for these things. So full transparency, how our top 5s evolve and work is me and Jordan sit here and we name names back and forth. And then when we get, 7, 8 names, we'll stop naming names, and then we'll try to put those in a top 5 order, and then obviously have the honorable mentions after that. So that's kind of how we go about it. We go completely off the cuff. We didn't research stats. We didn't pre-make a list. We literally decided the position group right before we hit go live on this video. So no pre-planning by us. But Jordan, let's go ahead and hop into it. Top 5 tight ends of all time in Clemson history. What's the name that comes to your mind first?
Just for me, when I think Clemson tight end, it starts with Jordan Leggett for me. I just when you think of what he was, on that national championship team and what he developed into, especially because it wasn't always pretty throughout his career, but I think Jordan Leggett is the epitome of the ultimate Clemson tight end. I think he's the one that everyone remembers. It's funny, he had the nickname early in his career because he didn't like the block. They called him Lazy Leggett, but just his career arc was perfect, and he capped it off in the best way. I mean, so many great moments, so many big time scores, big time catches. I mean, the catch he made on that final drive, that diving catch where he essentially caught it with his fingertips. Like, people don't give him enough love because for that, obviously Mike Williams had the big catch, and obviously Hunter Renfrow finished it off. But I think that catch from Jordan Leggett was the most important play of that drive. Like, that puts you in the red zone, puts you within range to score. Like, that's still one of the most incredible catches, I think, in that kind of moment I've ever seen. And just to see him cap off his career the way he did, and obviously he holds all the Clemson tight end receiving records. Like, it's got to be him, I think, first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think Jordan Leggett deserves to be up there. The things that he did for those national championship teams, the weapon that he was for Deshaun Watson, the security blanket that he was, the big-time pass catcher that he was. I think he absolutely deserves to be up there. Jordan Leggett's definitely one of those guys. Obviously, one of the names that come to my mind first when I think of tight ends and Clemson is Dwayne Allen. I don't think you're going to mention the tight end position and Clemson without mentioning the name of Dwayne Allen. Had a great NFL career as well to go along with it, but definitely a guy who I think you got to mention when you're talking about the greatest tight ends of all time for Clemson.
Yeah, absolutely. He's Clemson's only Mackey Award winner. I mean, he's. I think those two guys, I think, are first and foremost when you think Clemson tight ends. Like, they're phenomenal. Yep, Dwayne Allen, great pick. All right, for my number, well, this isn't necessarily in order, but another guy that I always think of when I think Clemson tight ends, especially as of late, Davis Allen. That might be I don't know if that'll be a controversial pick or not, but
yeah.
Davis Allen is one of my favorite, Clemson, one of my favorite Clemson tight ends just ever. And I think he was kind of underutilized while he was here, but he was just such a good football player. The guy did it all. He, blocked. He made important catches. He was just a great, reliable weapon that Clemson hasn't had that many of, over the years at that position. And a guy that did it the way he did. Yeah, Davis Allen, I think is everything you want in a tight end. And so, and he's having a really, really solid NFL career right now, and he's carved himself a role in the league. So, I honestly, I think you might have another Davis Allen and Logan Brooking. We haven't talked about him a ton, but I really like where he projects to be down the line in that tight end room as well. So, love Davis Allen. I think he's going to be on my list. So we got the two D Allens on there.
D Allens. All right, I'm going to go Michael Palmer.
Great pick.
2006, 2009. I think he's obviously helped Clemson advance to that ACC championship game. He was a key role on that team. 43 catches for 507 yards. He's definitely up there when you think of Clemson tight ends.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the leaders of that team. I don't know if Dwayne Allen ends up being as good as he is if he doesn't have a guy like Michael Palmer to learn from. So, I think you gotta have him up there. Really underrated player over the last 20 plus years in terms of Clemson, just Clemson offensive players, and obviously he had a big time season his last year. Just a guy that did everything. So kind of like who I mentioned, Davis Allen. He was kind of like that. He was kind of like that Davis Allen type. He just did everything. He was willing to do everything, and he was a phenomenal captain and leader. So, Michael Palmer, great pick. All right, I'm going to go with another guy that I think a lot of people, I think a lot of older fans will probably remember Benny Cunningham. I think he's also in that conversation. He held a lot of the Clemson tight end records before, guys like Dwayne Allen and Jordan Leggett came along. So I think you gotta have him on the list. Just didn't get to see him play. So, that's one of
definitely.
That's one of the things that it always sucks when you talk about, some of the players, beyond our generation, because it's like, man, I don't really, I can't, I wish I had the same perspective as some of the fans that were able to watch him play, because, he was phenomenal. So Benny Cunningham, I think you absolutely can't talk about Clemson tight ends without talking about him. Yeah,
absolutely. Look, obviously none of us got to saw him. Well, not none of us, but me or you did not get to see him play, 1973 to 75. 2 first-team all ACC selections, consensus All-American, had over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns in his career. So definitely a guy and I think he's on the 50th anniversary team as well. So obviously a guy that is thought of in that when you're thinking about great tight ends in Clemson history.
Yeah.
All right, so next one, let me write his name down real quick because I don't want to, when we go to rank all these, I need to remember all the names that we've named.
Yeah. Let's see. John Terrence says, I'm old enough. I'm so old I remember Jim Riggs. He should be on the list.
I was just about to say Jim Riggs. I'm glad
I was about to say. I was like, if you hold tight, he might show
he
up.
was next on the list. I didn't get to watch him play either. I was born after Jim Riggs had already finished up his time as a Clemson Tiger. But definitely a guy that's got to be mentioned. Played from 83 to 86, All-American. Definitely considered as one of the greats at his position by fans. All ACC, two-time All ACC selection, including first-team honors in 86. So also won an ACC championship while he was at Clemson. So shout out to him. Wish I got to see him play as well. So I guess I'm a little jealous there. But Jim Riggs definitely makes the list.
Yep. All right, going with another more recent example, another one in that run of tight ends. Michael Palmer, Dwayne Allen. But everybody talks about Dwayne Allen, but they don't remember. Well, they don't talk about enough his backup and pseudo starter, co-starter, Brandon Ford. He was obviously the bigger receiving. He was more of a receiving tight end than a blocking tight end. But I think he started kind of that mold that Clemson liked to get more athletes at tight end, and you saw kind of a little bit of a run there, and that led them to go get Jordan Leggett, and obviously it paved the way for him and Jake Brenningstool. I think Brandon Ford, got to have him on the list. Another underrated player in the Dabo Swinney era, and probably would have been more productive if he didn't have Dwayne Allen in front of him. Just a really, really good football player, and had a nice little stint in the NFL as well. So shout out to Brandon Ford.
Brandon Ford. All right, we got 7. Do we want to stop there, or what do we want to do? Do we want to add anybody else to the list?
I mentioned him. I think you got to put Jake Brenningstool. I think he needs to be in consideration. So we didn't mention him, right?
Jake Brenningstool? No, he's not. He was not on the list yet. But
okay, all right. Just make sure. I think you got to have Jake on there.
No, I agree. Set a lot of records at Clemson. He's obviously one of the guys that are towards the top when it comes to the tight end position. Just an absolute weapon when it comes to a true receiving tight end. Not your inline blocker that's going to go out there and pave the way for your running back, but a guy that is an absolute matchup nightmare when it comes to linebackers or nickels or safeties or anybody really covering him, specifically in the red zone and stuff like that. He was always a weapon. Even with some of the struggles that he had, he still set a lot of records at Clemson. I don't know that he gets enough credit for some of the stuff that he did do because of some of the criticism that he received while he was here, and just kind of where Clemson was offensively for a good portion of his time while he was a Clemson Tiger. So, but definitely think Jake Brenningstool belongs on this list. All right, so that gives us 8. So unless there's another name we want to add, we should start putting them in some sort of order.
Yeah. Oh, John mentioned Lamont Hall. That would have been a good pick too. It's the thing with tight ends for Clemson is like there's so many of these guys. Like Clemson doesn't have like a rich pedigree at tight end.
No, not really.
Some of those guys, that we mentioned are guys that ended up not, having. They weren't always the most utilized in the passing game. That's just never been at any point in Clemson history a position that they really put a ton of emphasis on, even when they had great players. And so it always makes it hard to put together a list like this, because you're like, okay, there's a lot of guys with similar production, and you just kind of have to evaluate, okay, who did I like best?
Yeah, you got to pick your personal preferences, honestly, because there's not a ton of statistical separation there.
You meant Lamont Hall. I could have mentioned Katie Dunn. Like there's so many like tight ends that Clemson has had that you just, fans look back at their careers and they're like, man, why weren't they used more? Right. And so that's
honestly, you look at some of the guys that Clemson's had at tight end, and you're like, man, every one of these guys were underutilized.
Yeah.
That's like just maybe
other than Jordan Leggett, because even Dwayne Allen didn't have
maybe Jordan Leggett was like the guy that was utilized like as close to his potential while at Clemson.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, they were all underutilized while at Clemson. So, all right, I'm gonna rattle off the list, and then we'll try to start making sense of all the names that we have named so far. So we got 8 people on the list. We got to rank them 1 through 5, and then leave the rest off. Leave 3 as our honorable mentions, if you will. All right, so we got Jordan Leggett, Dwayne Allen, Davis Allen, Michael Palmer, Benny Cunningham, Jim Riggs, Brandon Ford, Jake Brenningstool. Those are your top 8. So who we going number 1?
All right. For me, I think just from a personal, just for what he accomplished at the program, I think Jordan Leggett has to be number 1 for me.
I knew you were going to go there.
He also has a great first name, so that helps. So
I see the Jordans are sticking together in this.
We're kind of sticking together here.
In all seriousness, I agree with you. He's got the national title, right? What he meant to the program, the records that he set while he was here, the weapon that he truly was in the offense. I mean, you think about that, some of those catches that he made down the stretch in that game versus Alabama. That one diving one on the sideline, on that final drive where Hunter Renfrow scores the game-winning touchdown, right? And that's just one of the examples of kind of the things that he did while at Clemson. So, yeah, we'll go Jordan Leggett, number 1. All right, number 2. Where are we going? Dwayne Allen, number 2?
Yeah, I think you got to go Dwayne Allen. He's your only Mackey Award winner, had a good NFL career. I think you got to have him. And he had the production he did. Yeah, he played on some really talented Clemson offenses. I mean, he played with Sammy Watkins and DeAndre Hopkins. Martavis Bryant, Adam Humphries, Andre Ellington at running back.
Yo, what?
having to split snaps with Brandon Ford. Like,
how do we not win more games with that offense? Yeah. We had Taj Boyd, D-Hop, Martavis Bryant, Sammy Watkins, Dwayne Allen. Like, man, that was a great team. That was a great team.
Arthur Moss asked about Dwight Clark. He was a receiver, so he could have been in our receivers list. Rest in peace, by the way. But yeah, no, he was a receiver, so he's not eligible for this list.
He is not. Yeah, we're talking about we're talking about tight ends, top 5 tight ends according to me and Jordan. All right, so number 1 we got Jordan Leggett. Number 2 we got Dwayne Allen. Left on the list we got Davis Allen, Michael Palmer, Benny Cunningham, Jim Riggs, Brandon Ford, and Jake Brenningstool. Who we got at 3?
I'm going Benny Cunningham.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well. Benny Cunningham.
Yeah. I think he
so we got 2 more spots now.
And honestly, I think if you ask a lot of the old heads, they'd probably still have Benny Cunningham number 1. So yeah, I think he's got to be at least top 3.
Got to be top 3. Okay. All right. I like our list so far. We got Jordan Leggett, Dwayne Allen, Benny Cunningham. Okay. We got 2 more spots available, and we got 5 people left. Okay. So Jake Brenningstool, Brandon Ford, Jim Riggs, Michael Palmer, Davis Allen.
I'm going Jim Riggs.
Yeah, I was thinking between him and Michael Palmer. 4. All right, Jim Riggs at number 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay. We got 4 left in 1 spot. We got our new school guy, Jake Brenningstool. We got Brandon Ford, Michael Palmer, Davis Allen.
I'm going to go Michael Palmer.
Yeah.
I think I'm going Michael Palmer. I think because of, and also what he was one of those guys that stuck around through the transition from Tommy Bowden to Dabo.
Yep.
Like, he was instrumental. So I think Michael Palmer is a guy that meant a ton, especially in that time period for the program.
Yeah.
And obviously what it led to. I think you got to have Michael Palmer.
Yeah, it was kind of between him and Jim Riggs for number 4 for me, so I think it makes sense at 5.
Yeah.
All right, so our list. For anybody out here, who cares? Top 5 tight ends, according to me and Jordan. Number 1, Jordan Leggett. He's got a national championship. So if you guys have listened to any of me and Jordan's top 5 so far, we disproportionately weight national championships if you were a top contributor on one of those teams. If you were a key contributor on one of those teams, you get mad points for national championships. That's just our criteria. It is what it is. All right, so number 1, Jordan Leggett. Number 2, Dwayne Allen. Number 3, Benny Cunningham. Number 4, Jim Riggs. Number 5, Michael Palmer. Honorable mentions, Davis Allen, Brandon Ford, and Jake Brenningstool. That's your top 5 according
I feel pretty good about that one.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I like that one. I mean, it sucks to leave the guys we did off.
It does. But like all of these top 5s that we've done so far, it sucks leaving some of those guys off, but you got to decide at some point. And a lot of times, some of it comes down to personal preference. Some of it comes down to, I actually got to watch this guy play. So we got some recency bias in some of our top 5s. And some of it is, well, he got a national championship and he didn't, right? And yes, ultimately, football is a team sport. But, when you're one of those big-time key contributors on a national championship team, I think you just get extra props for that. And Jordan Leggett definitely did that. Not to mention the records he set, not to mention, what he meant to that offense. So, all right, there you have it. Top 5 tight ends of all time for Clemson, according to me and Jordan.
Yep. There it is. I feel like I said, I feel good about that. I feel like I could reasonably defend every single one of those players' placements and where they are.
Yeah, I think it was great. I think it was great. All right, guys, make sure you're checking out the voice of college football on all our social media platforms. So we got X right here, the voice of college football, for the best debate, discussion, and analysis. This is where we will post our reminders. We'll post our daily schedule, and all of the things that are happening in the news and with college football and what's happening at the channel will be posted right here. So give us a follow on X. Also, give us a follow on Instagram. Just started an Instagram page not long ago, and hope you guys come over there, give us a follow, trying to grow that page as well. I'm going to pop it up here for you guys so you can see it, so you know what you're looking for when you head over to Instagram. Give us a follow over there as well. Voice of College Football. So those are our various social media platforms: X, Instagram, Facebook. Don't forget our new Voice of College Football website. I'll show that one more time just because this is a huge thing. This has been in the works for a very long time. A lot of work has gone into it. So make sure you're following us on X. Make sure you're following us on Instagram. And head over to the Voice of College Football website. That is vocfb.com, vocfb.com. Your singular place for all things Voice of College Football. Articles, message boards, our show schedules for not only our channel, but every single channel under the umbrella of the Voice of College Football. So make sure you guys are checking us out. We got a lot going on here. So follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, go check out the website, and make sure you're staying up to date on all the things going on with the Voice of College Football. And with that said, everybody, that's the end of the planned portion of the show. We're now going to transition to chopping it up with you guys, the live chat section, the comment section, the people that make this show what it is. Still got 31 people in the live chat right now. Hit that like button while you're in here, and we are going to get to your comments and questions. So, Jordan, let's see what the people are talking about.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see. Our very own Mark Rogers commented earlier in the show. I wanted to star this because I thought it was very poignant. He said one of the most underrated transfer portal storylines nationally is that basically no one leaves Clemson. Culture is a buzzword in college football, but Clemson actually defines it. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it, and that word can obviously be an eye roller for a lot of people sometimes. Culture, and,
Yep.
and a lot of programs talk about it. Clemson is far from the only one that thinks they have a unique culture, but I do think there is something different when it comes to Clemson. Anybody you talk to, biased or otherwise, that have been around the program, they see what makes Clemson, or what separates Clemson from other programs, and what attracts, they attract a certain type of player. That's something that has always been said, about Clemson, is like they have a unique, vibe, atmosphere about it. When you go on those official visits, you talk to players that went to Clemson and didn't end up committing to Clemson were like, yeah, Clemson was different. Like there was something different about that place. Like that's what it is, and that's kind of how they've marketed themselves and how they've gone about their doing their business. So it's not just a mantra, it's not just a recruiting slogan. It's how they operate the program. It's how they coach the kids. It's how they develop. And I think that's what makes Clemson such a easy place to stick around, and why you didn't see many departures in the portal, in either portal cycle. So it's a testament to what this program is, and obviously Clemson has high expectations this year. I think that helps too. A lot of players want to be a part of a potential national championship caliber team. So I think that totally helps. But Dabo is just throughout the portal era has done a good job at retention. You haven't had the same levels of departures that some of their peers have, and I think that's a big reason why Clemson is in the position they are right now, to potentially have a big year.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Clemson does things differently, and it shows when it's time for kids to leave. I mean, we've been surprised sometimes by certain position groups and the lack of turnover there, because you just assume in the NIL and the transfer portal world that we live in, guys are going to leave if they're not starting, and that's just one of the things that Clemson excels at is roster retention. They do not lose a ton of guys. Not that they don't lose anybody, but they certainly don't lose a ton, and it helps on seasons like this when you're heading into the 2025 season and you've got all this returning talent. It's because of that roster retention. And they just do things a little bit differently. I think part of it is, for as much as Dabo gets criticized about how he does things, I think the one thing is that the players that he recruits from high school truly believe. I think they truly believe that Dabo is riding with them 100%. If he recruits them and they sign with Clemson, they're there, and they know that. So I think that goes into a lot of why you don't see the turnover that you see at other programs, and why some people are just hesitant to leave, because Jordan, we hear rumors all the time about, oh, so-and-so is thinking about the portal, or, this person's thinking about the portal, that person's thinking about the portal, and ultimately nothing comes of it. They're hesitant to leave a place like Clemson. So it certainly works in our favor.
Absolutely. It 100% does. And, that's something that, Clemson, especially now more than ever, is going to leverage.
And the one thing, you'll see in a lot of programs, just to kind of wrap this up and then we'll move on to another question, but Dabo's not going to kick people out of the program.
Yeah.
He's not going to do it. And that doesn't happen everywhere. There's a lot of programs out there that at the end of the season, when they have their meetings with all their players, they're like, hey, you should probably enter the transfer portal. So, not everybody that enters this, what I would venture to say is not everybody that enters the transfer portal, it wasn't always their idea. Sometimes they're told that it's time to go at certain places. Agree with it or disagree with it, that's the world we live in college football. But that's not something Dabo Swinney's ever going to do. If they're not developing, if they're not to a point where they can play, he doesn't look at the player, he looks at his coaches and tells them to develop the player. You recruited them, you develop them. So that's one of the differences as well.
Yep. All right. Let's get to some of you guys' comments and questions. Sierra. Well, I remember. This isn't Sierra. This is actually Zachariah. He said he cracked his phone. So he's. I think he's on his girlfriend's account. So that's pretty funny. Shout out to Zachariah. He says, hey, guys, how do I subscribe to your YouTube VIP version or whatever it is? Yeah, so there should be a join button.
So if you go to it should be right under this video. But if not, you can go to the homepage of the channel. And there should be a join button right there. Hold on, let me go look at it. So if you just click on, it's right next to the subscribe button. There should be a button that says join, and you can join the membership from there. There's a couple different categories on there. You got the all-in tier for $2.99. You got the Roy Bus for $4.99, and then you got BYOG for $24.99. So comes with different badges and stuff that you can get, and we'll certainly, as we get some members, we'll start doing some member only stuff for you guys as well. Some member only streams and stuff where we just got to interact with you guys on a smaller scale with less people. So we'll do some stuff like that in the future. So I do know on iPhones, for whatever reason, the join button doesn't pop up. So if you're on an iPhone, you're not going to see it. You're going to have to hop on a computer or a phone that, an Android phone. For whatever reason, it never pops up on an Apple device, or not an Apple device, an Apple phone. You won't see the join button, but every other electronic device, you should see the join button there, and you can choose your tier.
Absolutely. And it's a great way to support the show. And there's going to be a lot of content for you guys if you choose to join. So that'll be something that I'm really excited about. So hit that join button if you so please. Obviously, it's never going to be a requirement. The show's always going to be free.
Always going to be free. Always going to be free. But if you want to support the channel, that's an easy way for you, and it's a good way for us to get support as well. And we will, like I said, we will figure out ways to make that worth your while. We will make exclusive content for the members only as well. So you'll get a little bit more than just the live show that we do every week.
Yeah. All right. We got a BYOG or sell from John. He says, BYG or sell, this will be a big year for Woodaz. Buy for me just because of how he got a shout out from Boulware. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a easy buy. I think obviously with the departure of Barrett Carter and Wade Woodaz being the senior guy in the group now, I think it's only obvious, and he's going to have an expanded role, and I definitely think that he's done a lot to kind of get his body, in a place where he can play more free than he was at times last year. I felt like he was always a step slow. He bulked up maybe a little too much. He's certainly slimmed down a little bit. I think it's going to allow him to play faster, more confident, like he was in his freshman and sophomore years. So I think that's going to be exciting to see, because him and Sammy are the two. Those are your two guys right there, and then obviously I think in this defense, there's going to be times where they're going to be playing hybrid roles and stuff like that, because Tom Allen's defense is it's kind of a 4-3, kind of a 4-2-5 type hybrid. He has a rover position. I don't know if that's what they call it, but he does have a linebacker that can double as a sort of a in the box safety and defensive back at times. And then they also have standard nickel packages. So it's kind of a hybrid type defense, but it'll allow some of those guys to play faster, just a little bit more free than it felt like the linebackers were able to do this past season. So I guess that kind of answers Els King's question too. Tig says BYG or sell, fine bum has lost his mind. Yeah, I think that's I don't know if that's a recent thing, but I definitely buy. I think that's something that's
that happened a long time ago.
It happened a long time ago.
Long time ago that happened, but yes, you are correct. He has lost his mind.
John says, Woodaz fits the mold of what Darian Renter keeps saying. Clemson does well big meathead linebackers of a certain complexion. Yeah.
That's
certainly
true.
There is a tradition of that for sure.
We always have one of those on the roster.
Yeah. But hey, I mean, it wasn't always that way. I mean, it hasn't always been that way. I mean,
no.
Trey Lamars and the Stephon Anthonys and the Dorian O'Daniels were pretty good too. So you've had both persuasions at times, and of course the Isaiah Simmons of the world. Like you've had both persuasions be pretty good. So, but yeah, Clemson certainly does have that meathead linebacker role. Kind of, they had that market cornered. That's for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, Trey Lamar was a tank. That was a massive human being.
All right. Zachariah says, thanks, guys. I'll be subscribing once my new phone comes in about a week. Yeah. I'm going to pray for you, brother. I'm sure your girlfriend loves that you having to use her account.
Hey, that's dedication right there, though.
That is dedication.
And phone's broke. He's like, "Hey, baby, I'm gonna need your phone for like 2 hours. I gotta watch this show."
That's so dope. We appreciate it. That's the kind of loyalty we want to reward around here. Isaac asks, he says, I wonder where Wood has projects in the NFL. I'm not sure if he can play linebacker. I mean, I think he could play linebacker. I think that's where he projects. If he had stayed his size coming into Clemson and had played safety, honestly, I think he could have made himself out a nice career there. But I definitely think his more natural position is linebacker. Just a guy that plays in the box, flies to the football. I think that's his role. I don't think he's going to be some high end guy. But I do think he's a draftable prospect. So and I think with a strong year in his final year, I think he'll definitely get some consideration. I think he can play linebacker at the next level. I don't know if he'll be a starter or type player, but I think he can. I think he can carve out.
He can carve out a role.
Yeah,
in the NFL, even if he's just a special teams guy.
I think he's a great. I think he'd be a great guy to have. But I think he can cut it. And I think he's a better athlete than, I think he gets credit. He'll get credit for maybe, because he's shown it quite a bit. But
yeah, I mean he's, you mentioned he bulked up last season, so he looked a bit limited in the department last year. But I think he'll get back to his kind of athletic self this season, slimming down a little bit, getting some of that weight off of him. Just playing a little bit more fast, a little bit more free, especially in this new defense where it's really focused on, just playing fast and trusting your instincts. I think that'll bode well for Wade Wood as this year, and he'll end up having himself a really good year.
Yeah,
probably make himself a good bit of money this year.
Oh, Zachariah says, "Oh, it's worse. I took it to work with me. It's been gone for 8 hours."
Whoo,
man!
Hey,
you're great.
Sierra must love you.
Yeah, I know. I was about to say. I was like, she's a keeper.
When y'all getting married?
and honestly, that's a level of because it's like,
hey, that's a.
Like she was willing, like, and she's faithful too because she gave up her phone. Okay,
yeah, like, here,
take it for 8 hours.
You need it? Go ahead, take it. I don't need it.
I love that. Shout out to Sierra,
you, man.
I know you're not watching, but shout out to her.
Yeah, you got a good one, man.
You got a good one.
Better go ahead and start saving up.
Yeah. Yeah, Tig says about top 5 kickers and punter. Yeah, that's definitely.
Oh yeah, we can do that. Yeah, that's right. We have not done that yet.
John says, think about some future lists this summer, ranking the competition. Yeah, that's something that I've been thinking about. Yeah, like top 3 receivers he'll be facing, top 5.
Yeah. No, that'll be good. Yeah. As we get to the summer, we'll try to get to some of the schedule stuff and talk about teams and stuff that we're going to be facing and what kind of off seasons they've had, what they did in the transfer portal, if they got quarterback battles or if they got a returning quarterback, yeah, we'll definitely get into some of that.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Dylan says, when does fall camp start? Or I'm assuming he means fall camp. Unless he's talking like summer workouts, which are player-led, not really.
Yeah, that's kind of player-led, and, your strength and conditioning coach, I think, is involved with that as well. But
yeah. But fall camp, I don't have the date off the top of my head. That's something I can look up.
August.
Always the beginning of August.
Yeah. Sometime in the try to find out for you real quick.
Yeah. We'll let you do that. Isaac says, I mentioned it earlier, but y'all should end this player ranking list doing a Clemson Mount Rushmore of all-time Clemson players. Well, we did a Mount Rushmore. Was it for a position group, or did we do like an overall Clemson Mount Rushmore?
Did we?
I feel like we did, but I'm not sure.
We might have did something like that. I don't remember.
Because I know we did we did something Mount Rushmore, and it morphed into we'll just do like a top five by position.
Yeah, we did something. I can't remember what we did though.
Yeah, I can't remember. Els King says, yeah, speaking of punters, I hope Dabo's got a plan. Yeah. The plan is we're sticking with what we got, it seems like. Somebody's gonna figure it out, I guess, is the idea. I mean, that's all I got for you. Like I said, hopefully you're not doing too much punting anyway, but that is one thing I am certainly side-eyeing right now. Tick says, top 5 head coaches of all time. Yeah, I think that's got to be there. Something we do too.
Yeah. We know who's number 1.
Yeah, I think we know who's number 1. Tommy Bowden. Okay.
Yeah, he's number 1 on a list. No, I'm just kidding. Let me stop.
Don't do Tommy like that.
No, I ain't gonna do Tommy like that. I ain't gonna do him like that. He wasn't that bad.
Yeah. He did a lot for the program.
There were certainly worse coaches than Tommy Bowden.
Yes. Way worse. Dylan says, any new recruiting news? Yeah, I touched on a little bit, quite a bit of, well, I don't want to say quite a bit, but quite a few guys earlier in the show. So when this ends, go check it out. We'll have the timestamps up shortly after the show ends.
Yeah, our first segment tonight was a recruiting update. But if you got a question about a specific player, you can go ahead and put it in the chat.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that.
Like Mike says, top 5 coordinators and position coaches even as well. Yeah, that could be something we do too. Man, that would take. I think. Okay, so I think that one would take some research because it's.
Yeah, you'd have to start researching stuff.
Yeah, because I don't have coordinators off, especially position coaches off the top of my head.
Yeah.
That crazy. Like I'm not going back to like. I couldn't just like go to 1990.
Name a particular year. I'm probably not going to be able to be like, oh yeah, the safeties coach was like, blah 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 blah. I don't know, man.
I do not remember that. I mean, I remember some key ones, but like I can't remember them all.
I ain't got that kind of I ain't got that kind of storage space up there. It's not. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Zachariah says, I think TJ Parker going round one next year will help us get back on track in the defensive end. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that would be a great feather in the cap. I mean, you haven't had a defensive end go first round since Miles Murphy, and he was wasn't he like the last pick or second to last pick of the first round?
Something like he was late first round.
Yeah.
Like 22. No, he wasn't.
No, it was like 30. Oh, you're talking about the year. That would have been 2023.
Yeah.
I guess because that was his last season was 2022, right? Yeah.
28th overall.
Okay. So maybe that was
28th overall in the 2023 draft.
So not second to last, but it's still late first round.
Late first round. Yeah, really late first round. And that's been the only one, since we rattled off a bunch. With all those big time defensive linemen. But it'll definitely be nice to get back into the first round at that position group. Will certainly help us.
Yeah, before that, it would have been Cleveland Farrell and obviously.
Yeah, Clee and top 5 pick. Yeah. What do you go, 4? Did Clee go 4? Yeah. A little high, but we'll take it. He's still in the league. He's still getting it done.
Yeah, top 5 classic game. Yeah, we've talked about doing games in Clemson history. Dylan says, I mentioned earlier from a post an hour ago, showing Cedarian Morgan as a potential player. Yeah, I'm not keeping too much of a close eye on that one. Clemson absolutely would take him if he wanted to come. I don't think that's one you end up winning. I think he's probably staying in state. But even if he did, and I'm not sure if Clemson is the top, would be the choice anyway. So, but they absolutely would take him. Craig Dandridge is another guy that they really like that has an offer. I think he would be a take as well. But I'm not. I don't think you get either one of them. I'm just being honest. I could be talking about this differently here in a few weeks, but right now he's not. Clemson is still pursuing him and absolutely would take him if he wanted to come, but I don't think that's when you end up winning. David asks, is Blake Miller still considered a first round pick? Depends on who you ask. I think there's some that really like Blake Miller's measurables, and I think that's something that's projecting him into the first round. I'm not sure if the tape is first round quality yet. I think he absolutely can get there, but he still has lapses. I think he's a really good tackle. And obviously the measurables make him intriguing as a first round prospect. And I think that's I think there's some projection going on some mock drafts with him, because he was getting first round consideration last year too, but I don't think the play has lived up to that yet. It certainly can this year, but
this year could go a long way in kind of solidifying him in the first round.
Yeah. But he absolutely is a guy I could see at the end of the year being picked in the first round.
He's got a real shot of being a first round draft pick.
Yeah.
This time next year. Jay said BYOG or sell. The Clemson Athletic Department / administration knows more about the future of college football, i.e. Big Two, NCAA, more than the ACC.
They know more?
They know more about the future of college football than the ACC, essentially.
I mean, I feel like that's hard to comment on. I would sell. I don't necessarily think Clemson like knows something the ACC doesn't. I just think they're in a better position to do something about it.
Yeah,
like they are. I mean, the people in Clemson only have to act in the interest of Clemson. And the ACC has to act in the interest of all. I mean, they're supposed to act in the interest of all their member schools. They don't always do that, but
they ain't done that for a long time.
they haven't done that for a long time. But on paper, that's what they're required to do. But I don't. The ACC is not stupid.
No, the ACC.
Well, let me rephrase that. They're not ignorant of what's going on.
There you go. That's a much better word. Yes.
Yeah.
They're not ignorant to their surroundings and what is happening and what is going to happen. I mean, the writing's on the wall for those brands that want to leave the ACC when the time comes. The financial numbers have been laid out. They're set in stone. Everybody knows what it's going to be. Some could read into the Notre Dame scheduling thing and be like, well, maybe some of those, maybe the Georgia-Oklahoma will be conference games by that time instead of non-con matchups. It could be, you could read into it a bunch of different ways. But I'm sure the Clemson athletic department has a good grasp on possible options that they have. I'm sure they have a grasp on it, or they at least have a plan of, what they would like to pursue. So all these people know more than we know.
Yeah,
that's for sure. the college football fan knows the least about all of this, unfortunately.
Yeah. Tick says we have enough top fives to go all summer. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're loaded up. That's for sure. Yeah. Dylan says, do you see the ACC as a whole having a winning record versus Power 4 teams outside of the conference? I mean, as it stands now, I wouldn't say so. But then again, like I would need to see like the total number of games.
I would need to see the matchups, like who they are specifically. But just like on face value, I would say no.
Yeah, I don't think the depth of the conference is to the point where I feel confident saying that.
Versus the other three conferences.
Right. John says, how do you think the Cats and Catholics series will impact recruiting? I think it helps. No idea how much. Yeah, I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt. I think from a
Cats and Catholics.
Yeah. It's a good one. I like that one. I mean, I think certainly from a Notre Dame Clemson perspective, it's a good opportunity. Both schools have gone head to head for recruits quite a bit over the last several years. You just beat them out for Connor Salmon. They flipped Blake Hebert from you last year.
There you go.
There have been some back and forth there. The Will Shipley recruitment is probably the biggest one I can think of.
That was a big one.
Head.
Yeah.
But
he was really close to going to Notre Dame.
Yeah, he was very close. There's certainly been some. They've certainly gone head to head for some guys. They end up. They didn't beat you out for Jaden Greathouse because you never offered, but he's a guy that obviously ended up being pretty good.
I think series like this only help recruiting, honestly, because the type of players that you're going after, they want to play in games like this, right? So knowing that they're going to be able to play in Notre Dame Stadium and then have Notre Dame come and play a home game in their stadium, like that goes a long way in recruiting. Those big-time matchups, I think, certainly impact recruiting in a positive way. And it's a win-win for both universities. So I don't see any downside here.
Zacharias asked, would he be the first, in reference to Blake Miller, would he be the first round offensive lineman for Clemson in like the last 20 years or more? I don't even know when the last one was. I think it's way more than that. I don't think Clemson has had an offensive lineman drafted in the first round since the 70s. I think it's been since the 70s.
I'm gonna look it up.
And I can't even think of who it was. Yeah, I don't. I have to go look. I don't know if you might have to go to like the list of players Clemson has had drafted and just raw look for offensive linemen. Now I'm thinking, have we ever? Because I'm just trying to. Yeah, it might not be ever. Oh, okay. Nope. It was I think I found it. It was Lou Cordellione, I think, if I have that right. Let me see. Is there another one? No, I don't think so. In between, because certainly wasn't one in between. Yeah, no, it was it was 1960. Lou Cordellione, and he played defensive tackle, defensive end, and guard for Clemson. So, yep, he's the last Clemson offensive lineman. Yeah. Yeah. So I mentioned Jackson Carman. Yeah, he's the highest rated. He's the highest drafted lineman of the Dabo Swinney era.
He played D tackle, DN, and guard.
Yep. Yep. Lou Cordellione. Back when Clemson was still a military college. That tells you everything. Jay says, how high can DeMonte Capehart play himself into the draft this season? I think DeMonte Capehart is a first-round talent with undrafted caliber, medicals. That's probably the thing that's going to knock him a good bit. I think he is if he has a strong year this year, I think we might be having a different conversation. But because he's played so long, I'm not sure if teams are going to be willing to spend a first-round pick on him with his injury history. I would say second round is a good place for it. Would be, I think that's probably the highest achievable target for him at this point, just because of the tread on the tires and the fact that he's just he's older now. So I thought if he had a strong year last year and stayed healthy, he could have been in that first round conversation. But I don't know. Maybe we come back to this and I'm wrong. But I think the injury history is going to scare some teams off. Tig says, so what's BV's grade as a head coach? I mean, so far, I don't think you can grade him great. He's had 2 losing seasons in his first 3 years. Obviously, the other year was a 10-3 season, so that's good. But I don't know. It doesn't seem like that program has a lot of juice. They made some good additions in the transfer portal this offseason, but the schedule's difficult again. I don't know. I don't know if they. I don't know. I hope it works out, but so far I don't think you can have a high grade on him. Let's see. Yeah. Dylan Spells mentioned. Yeah, we won Khalil Barnes. Yeah, that's another one. Former Wake Forest commit. Decommits from Wake Forest, and Clemson and Notre Dame were the two teams. He ends up picking Clemson. Yeah, that's another one. David Lauer says it doesn't hurt that Notre Dame has one of the largest TV audiences in college football. Oh no, certainly it doesn't. That's for sure. I mean, there's going to be a lot of crossover there, and playing a true national brand for that's you can only help. Tiger Tom, talks about this is something that I think a lot of people kind of believe. He said the success behind Tommy Bowden at Clemson as well as Tulane was assistant Rich Rod. When Rodriguez left for another job, Bowden was kind of lost. I mean, the offenses certainly were very up and down throughout Tommy Bowden's tenure, especially after Rich Rod left. Those Woody Dantzler years kind of got things going, but then it was just periods of really good offense, years where you're not so great. You got through. The Charlie Whitehurst years were fairly successful, but then you also had the Will Proctors and the Colin Harpers of the world. Like it just wasn't always peaches and rainbows. So
it was always a roller coaster of up and downs with way more downs than ups.
Yeah. Isaac Smith says, I thought Mitch Hyatt was going to be special in the NFL. I think with Mitch, it was always just he was never going to be able to get the measurables were never going to allow him to be able to play at that level.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that just 4-year starter at tackle, but undersized.
Day one starter. Which you don't see very often.
Yeah. It didn't. He just was not at his size. He was not going to be able to put on the weight needed at that frame to be able to play against NFL level.
I'm looking for,
and I'm
looking for all this OL narrative to turn around with Matt Luke, because we know his track record of first-round offensive linemen.
All right.
What is Clipboard Jesus doing these days?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let's see. Harold Olsen, the tackle, was drafted second round, the same draft. Yeah, I did see that. But yeah, we've had a few second round and second, third round offensive linemen, but haven't had a first rounder since the
1960 is wild.
Yeah,
and for him to not even be a pure offensive lineman.
Yeah. The history at offensive line at Clemson has never been great. It certainly hasn't just been a Dabo thing. You've had some good players, but you just haven't had.
Still, to me, makes no sense.
Yeah.
It literally makes no sense.
Yeah.
Why Clemson does not have a lead offense.
With the history you have on the other side of the ball at defensive line, it makes sense why you weren't able to land at least you don't have to be like, you're not going to get, it didn't have to be at the level that you got, defensive linemen, but you expected at least, to have a top end guy every once in a while. You really just have never had that. Not in the modern era, you haven't. You don't have guys playing defensive tackle, defensive end, and guard these days. Like, that's just, So it's like, okay, you essentially just haven't had, those caliber of players. Let's see. Zachariah says, well, in that case, we desperately need Blake Miller to come through. LOL. We can't sleep on Tristan Lee either, though. Yeah, I think with Tristan,
he won't be.
I don't think he's going to be a first rounder. But although I did see one mock draft that had him. It wasn't a mock draft, but it was a top tackles list, and he was on there. So I don't know. I don't think he's going to be. I definitely don't think he's going to be a first rounder, but I think a good year of tape will get him probably a mid to late round pick. I think is attainable. Let's see. Yeah. Els King says, I think Isaiah Battle went third round. Yeah, he did. Let's see. I'm trying to think who else went fairly high. John Simpson was – no, I think he might have been a fourth round pick.
Jackson Carman, didn't he go high?
Yeah. We mentioned Jackson Carman. He went second round. He's the highest rated the highest drafted offensive lineman of the Dabo era. What did Brandon Thomas go? What round did Brandon Thomas go?
I'll tell you.
Let me look it up. I know Tremaine Ankrum was a later round pick. Yeah, Brandon Thomas went third round.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris Hairston.
Jordan McFadden went fifth round.
Yeah, Simpson was fourth round.
John Simpson went fourth round.
Let's see. Sean Pollard was a later pick, if I remember correct. Or did Sean Pollard even get drafted?
Sean Pollard.
Somebody check on that. I can't remember if he did or not. I want to say he was a late round pick.
What year would that have been?
That would have been 2019. That would have been after, or 2020. No, it would have been 2019, I think. Because he wasn't. No, Sean Pollard wasn't on the 2019 team, was he?
No, he did not get drafted.
Okay, I didn't think so. I know he made a roster. That's why I don't know why I was thinking about him.
Brandon Thomas went third round.
Yeah, Brandon Thomas went third.
Let's see. Dustin Fry.
Chris Hairston. Yeah, he was a later round pick. Yeah, there's not a ton of guys to choose from here. Jordan McFadden was a fifth rounder.
There's not even a ton of drafted offensive linemen, period.
No.
Much
really
less
haven't been many.
High.
We just named like all of them that I just mentioned Jordan McFadden. We basically named like all the ones that had been drafted. Tyler Shatley didn't get drafted, even though he stuck around in the league. I'm right in saying that Tyler Shatley didn't get drafted.
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
He did not.
Yeah. So I think we just named like all the offensive linemen that have been drafted under Dabo Swinney. I really think the number is like 6 or 7. It's not
under Dabo. Hold
Yeah.
on. That'd have been what, 2008 and on.
Yeah. I really think it's like 6 or 7.
You got. I'll name them all off right here. His first one was Brandon Thomas in 2014.
Yeah.
First drafted.
I knew. I was like, yeah, like Brandon Thomas, because like I always think of Brandon Thomas because he's definitely one of the most notable offensive linemen, like in my memory books. And yeah, he was 3rd round pick. Chris Hairston. Hold on. No, Chris Hairston got drafted before Brandon Thomas, didn't he?
Hold on, let me go back.
Yeah, no, he would have had to have been because that was Chris Hairston was like 2010, 11, 2010 would have been around that time. Yeah, 20.
Oh wait, these are all of our draft picks. Okay, so
who was the first? I want to say it would have been Chris Hairston. It was that Chris Hairston.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah, Chris Hairston. 4th round, pick 122.
Okay.
And then after that, it was.
Then it might have been Brandon Thomas.
He was the next one drafted.
It was Thomas?
Yeah, Brandon Thomas. And then after him, it was John Simpson, 2020.
Oh, Jesus.
So we went from 2013 not having a player drafted until 2020.
Good God, man. That's bad.
At the offensive line position. And then in the 2020 draft, we had 2 guys, John Simpson and Tremaine Ankrum.
Yeah.
Both drafted.
I knew those 2.
And then you have Jackson Carman in 2021.
And Jordan McFadden.
So you've had 6 offensive linemen.
It is 6. Good God, man.
Since 2008.
That's pathetic. That truly is pathetic for a program of Clemson's stature. I guarantee you could pick any other program that Clemson considers its peer, and a lot of programs that you would consider under Clemson on the college football pecking order that have had more offensive linemen drafted. That is pathetic.
Just crazy.
That is pathetic. But I knew that. I just didn't really like. I had never really sat down and thought about the numbers. I was like, we really haven't had many.
Somebody, Barry Richardson. Yeah, so 7 offensive
Does
linemen.
Barry Richardson count though? Because his whole career was Tommy Bowden. Besides,
not really, but if you want to be technical,
he got drafted when Dabo Swinney was the head coach. But yeah,
right. But I guess 2009 and on. So yeah, 6 under Dabo Swinney. So from 2009 until present day, we've had 6 offensive linemen drafted, which is terrible.
That is, but none of them first round.
None of them first round.
2 of them, and you've had multiple 5-stars at that position too, because Jackson Carman was a 5-star. He didn't go first round. He went second, but still,
and then we had a 7-year gap from 2013 to 2020.
Yep. Mitch Hyatt was a 5-star.
Yeah.
Went undrafted. I don't remember who else would have been a 5-star. Some of the early recruiting services were kind of weird in those early days, like in terms of wasn't always clear. Those are the 2 I know for certain were 5-stars.
Yeah, not a good offensive line track record when you break it down and actually look at it.
Yeah. Jeez, man. That's why you go and get a guy like Matt Luke.
That's why you go pay Matt Luke a lot of money to be your offensive line coach. And if he asks for more, Clemson better find a way to pay him more. You can't let that guy go. You need him. You need him. Whatever it takes for him to not look for another job, just go ahead and give it to him.
Unbelievable.
Oh, people in here talking about Nick Saban and Donald Trump.
Oh yeah, I did see that. He launching like an NIL
commencement speech at Alabama, and I guess him and Saban had a meeting about the challenges in college football, quote unquote. And then I guess he's gonna appoint a commission to look into solving some of the problems. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. What a world we live in. What a timeline we're in right now.
Nick Saban's having a meeting with the President of the United States about college football. All right. Well, what a weird world that we live in.
That's where we're at right now.
But hey, if it helps fix some of the problems, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see what comes from it.
What I will say is I do think Nick Saban's a guy that does care about college football. So
yeah,
I wouldn't be upset to see him involved in some sort of structure in college football.
God, man, that just I'm still thinking about the offensive. We just did that little deep dive, and now I'm sick to my stomach.
Yeah, that's depressing. I didn't know it was that little. I did not know that.
It's been pathetic, man. It just when you actually look at it and put the time span in, like we're going on 20 years, like and it's like good God. I mean, you'll have at least one offensive lineman drafted this year, this coming year. So hey, that's great. But
Blake Miller will definitely be drafted.
Yeah, but good Lord, man.
Think that it's a pretty safe bet that Tristan Lay gets drafted, but you never know. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah. All right. I think that's going to do it for us. There's not really anything I want to hit on. And we are about to hit to the 2.5 hour mark, and I'm getting sleepy.
Yeah, time to shut it down, guys. Still got 19 people in the live chat. You guys are absolutely insane. But thank you so much for hanging out with us. Hit that like button while you're in here. Consider subscribing if you are not already. I'm assuming all 19 of you are subscribed because you're still here 2.5 hours in. So I have to assume that you're subscribed. But anyway, share the video out there. Go check out the Voice of College Football page, vocfb.com, vocfb.com. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. And yeah, with that said, until next time, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman. Y'all have a great week, and go Tigers.
Later, y'all.